Yo, what's going on guys, it's Anime1 back here with another video, and today I'm here with another part of What If Naruto, the jougan part 4 of the story. So if you guys like the content in the channel, please subscribe to the channel, and while you're at it, also like this video. So let's begin the video. The atmosphere inside the conference room was extremely tense. Bull were sitting in their comfortable chairs where leaders and considered the best among the masses of the Fire Nation. Yet all of them had a varied expression, ranging from shock, anger, fear, and grief. Yours and Sarutobi sat in the center, a weary expression visible on his face as he regretfully grasped his forehead. "Is it really true?" asked Hiruzen sadly. Positively, the Uzumaki had been completely wiped out, the village destroyed, and all the inhabitants killed, declared Danzo. Minato and Namikaze stood beside the third Hokage along with Jiraiya. The white-haired student of Hiruzen was glancing at the blonde Jonin, whose face was perfectly masked of a calm and controlled shinobi. Yet, the clenched fists were enough to show Jiraiya what he needed to see. The Uzukage and all the other offered had a variant fight to the combination army of Iwa, Kumo, and Kiri. So fierce was the battle that outnumbered Uzumaki successfully wiped out the nearly 30% of the enemy forces before being destroyed, said Danzo respectfully. Yet he may not have been true fan of the clan, but he respected the power. And even in their demise, the Uzumaki had proven that they were powerful. Shock gasps were heard across the room as the clan heads and the top Jonins and the Onbu heard the news. It was a rare feat of a single clan to inflict such damage against the combination power of the three great villages. It only highlighted the power of the Uzumaki, the distant relatives of the Senju clan. Speaking of which, Tsunade Senju closed their eyes in grief. She may not have shared a close bonds with their distant relatives, but they were still family. Were there any survivors, Danzo-sama? Maybe a few could have escaped while the fights brought them. Said Minato hopefully. "You're right. A few did manage to run outwards our broad borders, but were eventually hunted down and killed. It only highlights our utter failure in protecting our allies, but also points out how vulnerable our borders are, and that threat looms over the great villages," proclaimed Danzo. "My son." Many of the clan heads gasped in shock on hearing Kusina's trembling voice. As far as they were told, the red hairs birthed to twins in the same day, a girl and a boy. But the boy supposedly died on his birth. Apparently, that had not been the case. Their eyes shifted towards Hiruzen, who sighed. Danzo gave him a stern yet approving look. The child was a boy. Konoha had always followed a secret treaty with Uzu, knowing to the respective kages of each village. In exchange of the resources and support, Uzu would continue to provide us shinobi who can be the Kyubi's Jinchuriki, along with the new weapons. However, if the female Jinchuriki were to ever conceive a male child, then he was immediately handed back to Uzu, informed Hiruzen, a logical way of thinking. A male Uzumaki growing up in Konoha could have easily created a clan over the decades, suggested Shibi Aburame, and the renders Uzumaki importance to us quite bleak. Appointed Hayashi Hyuga. If a girl was born to the Uzumaki clan, then too our village would gain a partial Uzumaki clan. However, the descendants of such a child will not be as strong as a true Uzumaki because of the strong genes that can only pass down by a male. Tsunade is a descendant of Mito, yet her healing powers and longevity pale in comparison to her grandmother. Not to mention the sealing arts that were the true power of the clan, explained Shikaku tactfully. And you allowed this to happen, Hiruzen? Asked Danzo barely, receiving a sharp glare from the Hokage. That's Hokage-sama to you, Danzo. Don't forget your place, reminded Hiruzen. His tone was calm, yet the message was clear. Yes, replied Danzo. Though a battle of eyes where it was continuous fought between the students of the second Hokage. It was an honorable treaty, which both the first Hokage and the second respected. I followed the same principles laid down by our great founders, replied Hiruzen calmly. Despite the benefits of the Uzumaki could have brought to our village, asked Danzo. Before the small conflict could escalate any further, Minato stepped forward, his eyes cold gaze glaring down at Danzo. Danzo, while I understand your views up to some extent, you don't have any right to question the Hokage, and nor do you have any right to speak of my son as a mere tool. I won't allow that, warned Minato. He stared at the blonde Jonin in shock. There were barely a handful of people in village who would stand up to Danzo, much less obstruct the man of speaking his mind out. It would have been the case with any other shinobi, but Minato was one of the rising stars of Konoha and was said to be the third Hokage's successor and the later fourth Hokage. So when he spoke, people listened. Danzo saw the clan heads, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and many others look at him. I see. It wasn't inappropriate of me. I apologize, said Danzo. Hiruzen instantly narrowed his eyes at the sudden change in his friend's behavior. This was not good. Danzo rarely apologized to anyone, but he did. There would always be some agenda behind it. The Hokage saw the same cautious look in Minato's eyes and was impressed with him even further. The 30 years was young, but he had an intellect that was as sharp as Danjo's. But it still presents the point that Konoha can no longer stay neutral. War is inevitable, declared Danzo. Murmuring quickly erupted into the chambers, but Hiruzen raised his hand, preventing a discussion from starting outright. Danzo, we should avoid war, the last one that had costed us so much. We even lost Tobirama sensei. Hiruzen pointed and saw the cold determination in his friend's eyes. Don't be naive, Hokage-sama. Do you really think Eva, Kiri, and Kumo will simply stop after destroying Uzu? No, they'll unite and attack us. And what happens after that? Konoha's destruction will be inevitable, warned Danzo. This is all the speculation. Do you have any idea what you are proposing? Asked Jiraiya. As a matter of fact, I do. If we do not retaliate, it will send a message across the entire world that Konoha easily betrays its allies. More than that, we owe it to Uzu to inflict a justice upon the criminals who slaughtered an entire clan mercilessly, declared Danjo. Everyone's gaze shifted upon Kushina, who had barely said anything during the entire meeting, but it was a shock of hearing about her son's demise or the grief that came after. It had frozen her, the red-haired, haunted look in her eyes. Few tears already fallen off her cheeks. Minato looked at his wife, even after all these years. Danzo inwardly smiled. Then most of the people in the room got determined look on their eyes on seeing the grieving mother. Satisfied, he looked towards Hiruzen, who gave him an extremely disappointed but a hateful look. Let there Shina be a kept war. On running, away from the council chambers, away from the people, away from everything. Everything had turned dark in her life. Tears freely trickled down her cheeks as she hopped from rooftop to rooftop across Konoha. Her home was gone, her clan destroyed, and her son. She could still remember that tiny little bundle that she had been forced to give to the Uzukage. She could still remember how heartbreaking the choice had been, but she had made it for her son, so he would not have to suffer her fate. So that Kushina would simply not use him as a breeder, or Jinchuriki successor, or worse, as a weapon. Kushina, wait! She ignored that voice for the past few minutes, even as a person continued to chase after her. Yet, she was forced to stop when Minato appeared in front of her, blocking her way. Unlike her, he didn't have any tears, but she had known him for years, and just one glance in his eyes was enough to show her that he shared her feelings, but had a better control over them. I have nothing to say to you, Minato, said Kushina stiffly. Kushina, I said Minato, but what could he possibly say to her when he himself? Don't worry, I'll fight for this village, even if they have failed in saving my family, said Kushina coldly, receiving a glare from the blonde. You know I never doubted your loyalty, replied Minato sharply and saw a smile on her face. Just go away, Minato. This is the moment for you and this village to shine. Your chance to prove your worth to your beloved village. It's unfortunate that it costed my son. And with those cold words, Kushina was going to run, but Minato grabbed her. Kushina, you're my wife, and we have a daughter. We still have family left. I want you to get over this, said Minato. Kushina glared at him and vanished. Minato only remained frozen in the spot. Only if he had known a single mistake could cost the man so much. If he hadn't done what he did, these things would have been different. Only if he was my son too, Kushina. 3 days later, Ada opened her eyes. For a moment, panic arose in her heart when she spotted only darkness, but relief soon came after when she felt a strong pair of arms wrap her in a warm hug. It relaxed her and brought a few tears in her eyes as she heard his voice. You're safe. It's over. She looked up to see Naruto smiling down at her. The girl's cheeks flushed and got a little red on seeing how close he was to her. Their lips barely a few inches apart from each other, yet she knew she was safe, as she knew how Naruto he had never displayed a hint of romantic feelings for any woman. Sometimes he made her doubt his sexuality. The boy had shared some bromance moments with Arashi, and he had her. It was really refreshing. You done, perv? Asked Naruto amusedly. Shut up, replied Ada, a smile appearing on her face. Her eyes then settled on him as he simply stared at her back. In a simple move which surprised Naruto, she leaned forward and tried to kiss his lips. At the last second, he moved away, making her kiss his cheek instead. Before she could feel embarrassed, Naruto cupped her chin and looked her straight in the eye. You deserve someone better, Naruto said hesitantly. She looked at him sharply. Let me be the judge of that, replied Ada, some anger seeping into her tone. Naruto slowly got back on his feet and walked a few meters away to stand at the entrance of the cave they were currently taking shelter in. The third great shinobi war has started. His words shocked Ada to her core. Her eyes widened as she tried to imagine the consequence of this catastrophe. Has entered into the war to seek revenge for Uzu. It's rather ironic, isn't it? But with their arrival, Suna will soon follow. The war flames would engulf all the lands, and the era of darkness approaches all, said Naruto calmly. And whose side are you on? asked Ada hesitantly, making him smile a little. My own. I'm going to fuel this war. Every ninja village is my enemy. My goal is to make each and every one of them suffer terrible losses, because as their military and economic power are reduced to rubble, they'll continue to possess and desire and capability to wage wars again. Explained Naruto frankly. This wasn't what the Uzukage wanted, hinted Ada, and flinching while receiving a sharp glare from Naruto in return. He's dead, and I don't have time to linger in regrets or ponder what he would have done in this situation. It's up to me now. The sad thing is that unless I wage war, I can't have peace in this world. Yeah, I can't give you what you want because I don't have the capacity to love. My existence itself was a mistake, said Naruto sadly. Ada lowered her gaze. His words were only harsh, only pretended the bitter truth. Birds must be controlled by an existence who's either extremely incompetent or extremely sarcastic, said Naruto dryly. Ada saw Naruto's gaze fixed on the Uzu headband that he was holding in his right palm. Already, I have nothing left to lose, muttered Naruto. He then turned around, and this time, Ada saw raw determination burning in his eyes, a fire that she had never seen before. But even so, I will fight, promised Naruto. The young boy's gaze shifted up towards the sky as the face of his deceased Uzukage smiled down on him from the heavens. To keep my promise to you and to gain the sequence of this thirst in my heart. Is that a good friend or a strong enemy? The ninja world. Will you fill that role? Skip. 3 weeks later. It had been 3 weeks since the third grade Shinobi War had started, and Ada and the captured children had slowly recovered back to their full health, while Naruto and Arashi had conducted small raids across the nearby village and gathered necessary resources to sustain the survival of their family. The stolen goods and resources had been deliberately kept low in amounts in order to avoid Konoha's radar. Naruto had explained that these minor raids would only help in their survival, while also increasing the paranoia of the people of the Fire Nation. Nobody ever suspected that the survivors of the extinct clan were the ones who were doing this mischief. Instead, the blame was being firmly laid on Kumo, or in some cases, even Eva. The two Chunins had to admit Naruto had a devious mind when it came to war. It was as if the boy was born to destroy, and judging from the cynical, borderline evil grin visible on Naruto's lips made them a little nervous. Leave it to the Nara to do something like this, commented Naruto. What do you mean? Asked Ada, a frown visible on her face. Konoha is taking its step into the war, rather than directly attacking Eva, Kiri, or even Kumo. They're organizing their armies. No matter how strong they are, they cannot possibly hope to take down on 3 major villages all on their own. If my guess is correct, they have already sent a alliance to Suna, explained Naruto. But what would have Suna gained from allying from Konoha? Their best quarter out of each other, suggested Arashi, but his best friend only smiled. No major village can avoid this war. Suna is right beside Eva and is the weakest among the 5 great villages, and the Tsuchikage alone could wipe out more than half of the forces of Suna on his own. While Suna has a strong ninja in form of the son and Kazekage, he is just one man. Fear and anxiety are common in war, and the Kazekage would rather ally himself with a pacifistic and stable man like Hiruzen Sarutobi rather than the face This world war alone, explained Naruto with a smile. That does make sense, said Ada in a surprised voice. We can't allow that to happen, neither can we allow Tsuna to stay neutral. If one of the major villages remains strong after this war, our entire cause would have failed. Warned. Arashi getting a nod from his friends. Correct, Arashi. This is why we will destroy this building alliance, declared Naruto, a cold look visible on his eyes. How? Asked his friends in union, making Naruto raise three fingers. He spends a few minutes explaining the mission to their friends, and by the time he's finished, both of them are staring at him with a mix of awe and shock. Is there a problem? Asked Naruto. No, it's just, said Asa hesitantly and flinched when Naruto's gaze bore on her. We are an assassination squad. The three of us are the closest of Anbus Uzu ever had. Most of us. Have you forgotten how every one of these villages played a part in destroying our village and our clan? Said Naruto harshly. He is right. There is no room for sympathy. You must remain focused on the real objective, which is peace, insisted Arashi fiercely. Ada could only nod. Arashi, I want you to stay here and protect these children. I can't afford another mistake, and I know you can do it, said Naruto seriously. Ada smirked. The way Naruto had worded all his had left a very little room for Arashi to protest, yet the boy did that regardless. Don't tell me you plan to do this solo, asked Arashi. Naruto shook his head. Ada will be my partner on this operation, and it's just like you said, the only thing that matters in our mission. Or have you changed your mind? Asked Naruto. She flinched at that. We will be back within a week. Don't conduct any raids until then. Stay there and protect our people. And most of all, start teaching them the basics of ninja arts, instructed Naruto. And you want me to babysit and teach? Are you insane? Asked Arashi worriedly. And Ada just chuckled. Maybe, but you're the only one among us three who has the patience and the talent to teach others. Start training the ones who are fit to be ninjas. For those who don't have the talent, focus on teaching them the ways to make scroll and sealing, stocking weapons, and also medical ninjutsu up to some extent. That is, we may not have the numbers, but I want to allow these children to be weak again. When the next time they face the enemy, I want them to fight like a true Uzumaki instead of crying out of fear and despair, explained Naruto harshly. But they're so young, said Arashi hesitantly. He glanced at the 10-year-old boys and girls. He saw the brief regret of flash, sadness, guilt pass through Naruto's eyes. He hid it well enough to prevent Arashi from noticing, but she could see that he was hurting him inside, just like the rest of them. Only victors are allowed to live. This world is merciless like that, said Naruto, a haunted look visible in his eyes. Naruto. The boy closed his eyes and turned away. The next time he spoke, his voice had the same iciness and determination present in them. Ada, prepare for this mission. We move in half an hour, and Arashi, in just case we don't make it back, then I'll left instructions for you in the scroll. Don't open it until absolutely necessary, warned Naruto and tossed the scroll to his friends. What is in it? Asked Arashi curiously. He observed a small blank colored object, something which I was supposed to use, but I never got in trouble. A safety measure given to me by my father. Both Ada and Arashi went wide-eyed on hearing that. The shocked stare fixed on Naruto's backs. All their lives, their friend had pretended on not knowing his father. Or Leslie, Naruto walked away after relaying that information, clearly not willing to share any more information, and his friends reluctantly then pursue him on his revelation. "What a fucked up family," said Harashi with a sigh. "Just pray that they never meet face to face," replied Ada rarely. "Why?" asked Harashi and saw the terrified expression arriving on the blue haired girl's eyes. "It might just start another world war."